Longevity Junkie, it's time to get your fix. I'm Nikki Lee.
I'm Buck Joffrey.
And coming up today, we talk with Dr. Ryan Rosner, a former NFL player turned longevity scientist and director of research at MiniCircle, the startup behind Brian Johnson's gene therapy. We also have a close look at some of the most controversial statements in the longevity space. Ooh, I'm very excited for that one.
Oh, yeah. You like controversy,
you are clearly
don't you?
not. I mean, it's fun.
No, controversy for me is like, it's a thing that kind of drives me crazy because and there is so much junk in this space. Oh my gosh.
I know, it's true.
It's really
That's why
hard
we're
to
here.
listen to. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
So what are you what are you doing this weekend?
That's a really great question.
You're doing a lot of travel. You're traveling.
A little bit of traveling. Yeah, I gotta get back into my workout routine because I love pastries and crepes and Nutella way too much.
Yeah.
So got to get back to my workout. Get to hug my dog. I'm very happy to hug my dog.
And where is your dog right now?
He's with my old roommate. He also has a dog, and so they kind of, I don't know, we became like a family. He became like my brother, and then we had 2 dogs, and we lived together for 6 years, and so it's like he moved back to LA, and thank God. I mean, he's just such a lifesaver when I run away and do things like this. Because he's always like, yeah, I'm gonna take my buddy. Like that's his other dog in a sense.
Yeah.
So he's there. The bros are hanging out.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's super fun.
I'm actually headed to LA just at least for tonight.
Party hardy? What are we doing?
Well, you know what? It's
Got a
crazy.
date?
No, it's crazy. We have, my friends up here in Montecito, like, they're all getting divorced. It's crazy. Like, I was the one guy who was divorced, like, for the last 4 or 5 years.
Have a party?
And now everybody's divorced. So now, like, I got friends who are, like, hanging down. They're like, hey, let's go hang out in LA. So I'm like, oh, we're going to go down to LA. I haven't been in a long time. But do that
Buck
kind of
starting
thing.
trends, divorce trends. Look at you, Buck.
Yeah, well, they followed me like 4 years. Like 4 years
They're
later.
Like, I want the freedom that guy has.
I think that what they're doing. I think what happens too, like, is a lot of these parents, like the kids are in high school and they held on, and then boom, all of a sudden high school comes. I can't deal with it anymore, and they're whatever
at the breaking point.
Okay, so I guess our next segment here, Nikki, is we can just call it the most controversial statements in the longevity space. Why don't you?
This will be fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have an opinion. Are you excited about my opinions?
Yeah, I am very. I've been waiting for your opinions all day long.
You love it.
I was thinking, what is okay? And I think some of those stuff we're going to disagree on, actually.
Ooh, okay. I love that.
All right, read the first controversial statement.
Okay. Ozempic is just socially acceptable. It's a socially acceptable disordered eating. Oh, that's so sad.
Okay. What do you think?
I mean, it is socially acceptable. It's kind of sadly socially acceptable. And it does it's not healthy eating, or it's, keeping us from eating, or those people who are on it. I don't know. Ozempic scares the crap out of me. I'm not going to lie. I guess it's great for people I see who like slim up and feel like they, look better and they have more confidence and all that. I really am all about that. But when I heard that it really like depletes your muscle mass and, when I heard it depletes your muscle mass, it scared me, period.
Yeah.
I was like, no, longevity is what we've been talking about, is having more muscle mass. And, we get weaker if not, and they don't seem to care. So it's vanity.
So this is the one I didn't think we were going to agree on. I actually think Ozempic is like one of the greatest drugs of this last 20 years. And the reason being that if you look at, so this is, what is Ozempic? It's called, it's basically known as a GLP-1 receptor agonist, slows gastric emptying, also does some appetite regulation. There's some things here that help with diabetes.
The appetite regulation. Okay, diabetes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
It's a diabetes drug. That's what it's actually was initially created for.
But now I feel like it's just a vanity thing.
No, it's not a vanity.
No?
Because think about it this way. No, I do see your point about people being on it who were never overweight in the first place.
Yeah, like these people who just need to lose the 5-10 pounds.
Clinical trials are showing like 15% average body weight reduction sustained over several years. And what does that mean for somebody who's, obese? that means
Well, that's
easily
incredible.
years and years and years on their life. Now, to your point about muscle, that's absolutely true. You do lose muscle mass, but in people who are obese, actually, they have a disproportionate. Most people who are middle-aged and obese actually have muscle to spare.
Sure.
In
Okay.
other words, they do tend to have more muscle mass, even though they have a bunch of fat
Hmm.
tissue. So
I
here's the
love it
thing.
in all of this. I
Yeah,
think I'm just used to the LA crap. Like, everyone's just like, oh, the 5 pounds or the 10 pounds they want to lose. And it's not necessarily like that's not helpful.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I
Okay.
mean, in those situations, I think, like with any drug, you have to look at it and say there's relative risk and benefits. And for somebody
Sure.
who's 100 pounds overweight, there's no doubt where that benefit way outweighs the risk. Now, if you're 5 to 10 pounds overweight, or you think you are, or
It's
whatever,
more. Yeah, it's more.
then I think the risk element. There are some risks with this, of course.
Hmm.
Thyroid issues, all kinds of other stuff that you can get into that it would kind of suck to get just because you were trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds. The
Yeah.
other thing is, to your point about muscle,
Hmm.
like I know, like like one of my friends, she did this and she did not need this at all. And like, she was so pissed off because she's like, I lost my butt.
Yeah, you're gonna get your butt. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, butt loss
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So okay, so I get it. I like it for the help, but when people need it and it really
Right.
helps, I mean, really, I know it can be tough to lose weight and stuff. So respect, and I'm glad to see there's real health benefits. But I think I was more, the quote says, uh, Ozempic is just socially acceptable disordered eating, like, which means like, not eating. So
Right.
I get that. But I do Ozempic for what it's meant in the like really helping somebody, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Next one.
Okay. Next one is childbirth is bad for your health span, which I don't think so. I have heard that women who give birth over 40 live longer, like they live to be 100.
Yeah.
They live there. Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
think what
totally
it's
makes
referring
sense.
to, and I don't know that I've heard people, I don't know if this is a controversy. I've never actually heard anybody say this. I mean, apparently, producer Phil, who's not from Taiwan, by the way, he's not from Taiwan. Um, yeah, made the mistake
I
before,
love this.
but non-Taiwanese Phil, wrote these up, and
This is horrible.
he thinks that
Feels like fuck you.
childbirth is bad for your health span is one of the controversies he wrote, and maybe that's something that
Oh, wow,
maybe
we're
he's
throwing him
heard.
under the bus.
But
Man,
okay, listen, short term,
yeah.
yeah, it can do a number on your body, right? If you're talking about health span,
Yeah.
short term, absolutely. You've got and theoretically it might transiently sort of increase these epigenetic ages and stuff like that, but usually within a few months or after birth, those kind of come back to normal. And to your point, those long-term effects are, from what I understand, the vast majority of women generally who are parous, which means they've had children, generally have a long-term benefit in terms of longevity and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't really completely buy that statement. So it looks like we agree on that one.
Okay, like that. All right, the next one. Plastic surgery is a valid longevity tool. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one. Yeah.
It's a valid longevity tool? I mean, I don't know. You're putting your body through a lot of stress too when you do some nips and tucks, and don't you?
Yeah, and well, it sort of doesn't kind of work because plastic surgery is not doing anything
Yeah,
to
it's all
you.
surface, right?
It's all surface, right? So, and by the way, that's kind of why I wanted to do this like new business that I was thinking about, because I think you got to kind of integrate the two, sort of inside and out, beauty type thing.
Yeah. I mean, I do see the psychological, like, you're more confident, and that does boost your self-esteem. And if I don't know, higher vibes. I mean, I feel like
Okay, so
it'd
here's
be
my
good. I
take
could
as
see
a
that.
guy who's done thousands and thousands
Are
of
they never happy?
cosmetic surgery. No, no, no.
Okay.
Quite the opposite. Here's what I would say is that, people think about it as vanity, but I actually think sitting there staring at something that bugs you all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that is vanity. Okay? So if you can just quickly get rid of it or change whatever that is, and granted, there's variety of different things. Some things are easier than others.
For sure.
But I see huge improvements in quality of life because these people have been looking at the same darn thing for their entire lives, or maybe for the last few years or whatever it was. Suddenly they don't worry about it and they move on with their life and they don't have to think about it. So I'm all for it, but it's completely different from
a longevity. Yeah, I don't see that either. Okay, next one. We're already curing aging and you're just too broke to access it. Oh, that's so sad. I didn't say this, people. I mean, kinda in a sense, like there are some great things that people can do, processes that are expensive. And then as we've seen in our shows, a lot of it isn't like it's not a one and doneer. It's like something like, you got to do these many sessions or you have to be consistent with these sessions. So, that it does get pricey. And sometimes when I've tried to pry a price out of some of these guests, they don't want to tell me.
Yeah. And what I will say too, though, is like, to your point, I mean, there's a lot of things. Okay. So are people getting cured of aging? No, they're not. But there's a lot of things that we've talked openly about the show, like you just mentioned. I mean, we talked about hyperbaric oxygen, like the Shiafrati protocol, and it's like $30,000 to $60,000. And then, stem cells, if you're going to go to Colombia, that's
can also be around a $30,000+
about $30,000. What else? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. So there are all these things now, whether they're probably improving your health, right? But it's not like a cure to aging, I mean, most of the stuff that is going to get you most of the way there, a good diet, some exercise, good sleep, it's all cheap. So
yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah. Like I love the blue zones, all the things that we covered in like the blue zones. Like that's, just so, really having a healthy social circle and just having love and good food and, sunshine, good sleep, environment.
I think it's going to be a bigger problem in the coming years, though. Like, for example, one of the things we're going to talk about in today's podcast is the use of, trying to get some genes that influence, try to get certain genes that influence longevity or muscle growth or whatever. Those things are really expensive, but those things like if you could get delivered genes that are, thought to be responsible for a lot of people living over 100 years into you at a cost, well, then that fact becomes true, right? That becomes a real thing, but we're just not there yet. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Billionaires are still dying. Billionaires are still dying.
We're all dying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if all of a sudden you see
I don't know, Illuminati. I mean, we got like who's in the Illuminati? Like, I feel like Madonna. I mean, she's looking.
She's not looking so good anymore.
Well,
she kind of fell off a cliff. She was looking for a long time.
She was looking good for a long ass time.
Yeah, she was.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these people are looking hella good, killing babies and eating them or whatever.
Tom Cruise.
Scientology. He's in Scientology. Is he in Illuminati
so he's an alien.
Too?
So he's an alien, so he doesn't count, I guess.
I mean, maybe. Lizard people.
Lizard. I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't know. That was our Phil Ferragamo, our producer.
Yeah.
Throwing us lizard people.
But anyway, so anyway, we should probably move on.
I mean, those are pretty interesting that somebody would have like the balls to say something like that, and a lot of them. So
yeah, I don't know if anybody's actually saying it.
I wish we knew who said them because I would love to call them out. But
I think you do know who said that.
God. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll dive into the cutting edge science of gene therapy and performance longevity with Dr. Ryan Rosner. Welcome back to Longevity Junky. It's time for our guest interview, The Breakdown with Dr. Ryan Rosner. Ryan Rosner, PhD, is a molecular biologist and longevity researcher specializing in gene therapy and human performance. He is the director of longevity research at MiniCircle, the biotech startup behind Brian Johnson's gene therapy protocols. A former NFL athlete, Dr. Rosner earned his PhD in the biology of aging before completing a postdoctoral fellowship with the U.S. Air Force, where he studied human hibernation and resilience under extreme conditions. His work explores cutting-edge genetic interventions aimed at extending health span, enhancing recovery, and redefining the biological limits of aging. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ryan Rosner, or Dr. Stud, as I said off air.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Buck, Nikki. It's great to be here.
Great to see you.
You know, you did play in the NFL. I mean, that's
exactly why.
That's kind of a stud thing. That is pretty cool.
I did play in the NFL in the off season, and I was a kicker. So a couple asterisks there, but
hilarious.
So
preseason, you played in the preseason?
Yeah, I got signed to a contract 2 years in the off season and got cut before the regular season. So
who'd you play for?
Who was it? Yeah, who do we have to never cheer for ever again?
Yeah, so mostly the Falcons, Atlanta Falcons, and then
I don't
briefly
like
the Dallas Cowboys.
That's cool. That's cool.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a different life being like an athlete and being around that.
Yeah, it's a much different world.
Yeah, totally different world. So So how do you go from being this, like, you know, in a professional athlete scenario of the NFL to physics to molecular aging research? I mean, I don't even how did your experience of being an elite athlete influence like this studying?
Totally, yeah. I mean, I studied philosophy while I played college sports to answer like big existential questions about life. And
I love that.
Philosophy didn't really answer my questions. When I was pursuing the NFL, I had a bunch of time to read, got exposed to the idea that like science could like change our world.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, in high level sports, there's a big emphasis on supplements and performance. You think about your body a lot. So that and the discipline and skill set of performance itself actually has translated a lot to biology.
Oh, I could only imagine. I mean, because you want to reach your peak performance.
Yeah, and if you have to like deliver results on command in the lab, it's actually a quite a bit of overlap with delivering them on the field.
Yeah. Clutch moments when you're just waiting for that gel to set.
Yeah, just like putting the helmet on, you know. Yeah, it's the same.
There you go.
Well, when you're studying like cellular stress and resilience, where have you find that being an elite athlete has really come in handy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think metabolism is super interesting, you know, because if I'm working out, I can feel the changes happening, and then I can look at a cellular diagram and really play with them pretty deeply with both those backgrounds. It's actually been a great combo. Yeah.
So, you know, and actually, speaking of that, you know, running around, your PhD work, I think it looks like you were focused on hypoxic exposure, basically low oxygen exposure.
He has quite the face for that response.
Yeah. That it activates a lot of the same pathways as caloric restriction. So maybe for our audience, can you explain sort of in practical terms how low oxygen environments, which, you know, we'll use the word hypoxia, just don't want to make anybody confused by that, but that's what it is, hypoxia, how
Absolutely.
It potentially tricks cells into sort of this longevity promoting state?
Absolutely, yeah. Love this question. Thank you. You know, life on Earth is like 4 billion years old, and most life needs like oxygen, calories, heat. So, you know, the first way I explain to people is like caloric fasting and temperature fasting in the form of cold plunges are quite popular, but oxygen fasting is not as popular. I think basically life has had like 4 billion years to evolve genetic defenses. So like if there's a temporary deprivation of a fundamental life input, cells have to survive. And so they have really good programs for doing that. So low oxygen, there's a series of sensors that are tripped, and then there's a transcription factor called hypoxia inducible factor, that turns on a big program to just make your cells more resistant to this low oxygen threat. I was smiling because this was the first project I worked on, and at the time I did not appreciate how cool it was.
Yeah.
And only now am I starting to, and so I'm really grateful that I got to work on it.
Well, and that's actually something that I think is a really interesting topic. Nikki and I spoke to a guy by the name of Shai Frati. Do you know who Shai? He's with that Israeli group who is looking at hyperbaric oxygen.
Okay.
Does that ring a bell? So basically, the idea was they have these insane protocols, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like 60, 90 days. Nikki was trying to get in free the whole time. Like, she was embarrassing, but
this is embarrassing. Get out of here.
Just kidding. 60 to 90 days of like 2 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And their protocol essentially was, it's different from just pure hypoxia. What they're doing is they're going in the chamber, and then they're putting masks on people, 100% oxygen, while they're under like 2 atmospheres of pressure, and then they take them off cyclically and put it back on. So they're never actually truly experiencing what we think of as low oxygen or hypoxia, but they're experiencing the delta, the change, or the reduction. Yeah. So I'm curious to ask you, because you have experience in this. They're convinced that it's the delta, not the actual low oxygen. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love this level of detail.
We're not lightweights here, Ryan. You're in the NFL of podcasts right now.
I appreciate it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think you can probably, my working conclusion at this point is you could probably get benefits from hyperbaric oxygen. You can get it from low oxygen, and you can get it from cycling. There was a super smart postdoc in the Caberline lab, Jason Pitt, who built like an elaborate device that would cycle worms' oxygen levels at different frequencies, like 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And he saw differences with the delta, like how long they were exposed to. So the cycling was definitely emerged as like a real factor.
But was the cycle, was the nadir in the cycle, like the low part, was it actual hypoxia, or was it normal?
It's hard to remember. He had a lot of I don't think the worms ever got high oxygen in his system. I think they were between low and like normal oxygen. The takeaway I took from his work was that the cycling can be a factor independent of just the oxygen level.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, another thing that I know you're pioneering this non-viral plasmid-based interventions for aging. And first of all, for people who don't know what plasmids are, can you explain that, and then how they might be offering benefits in drug delivery compared to the alternatives?
Yeah, totally. So plasmids are small circular pieces of DNA. Let's say like maybe 2 to 10,000 base pairs. Some of the buzzwords around gene therapy are like viral gene therapy or CRISPR, for sure.
CRISPR.
Viral packaging is just a way to deliver the gene therapy, and CRISPR-Cas9 is like a specific editing system. A plasmid is typically like, our plasmids are episomal. So there's no virus, there's no CRISPR. It's just like a circle of DNA that contains a gene that we're basically adding. We're not editing your genome. We're just creating a small, super small, like extra chromosome that just adds gene function.
How do you get, so just getting in the weeds a little, by the way, right, I was a biochemistry major, so I love this stuff, I don't want to make this too annoying for people, but how do you get the structure, like a DNA, like just naked DNA, into like human cells. That
You
doesn't
just
seem
take its
like
clothes off. I'm just kidding.
yeah, that's right. But how, I mean, it usually I would think you would need like some sort of capsule,
Yeah,
like some
totally.
sort of fatty something or another to get things into cells. I mean, how do you get this stuff into where you want it to go?
I think there's a lot of ways. So I think viruses are really good at it, but they can be immunogenic. So I think our approach is basically a kind of a long neglected complementary approach. You can use a cationic polymer to get it in the cell and into the nucleus at higher percentages. You can use other similar positively charged molecules. You can actually just kind of brute force it and put naked plasmid into certain tissues, and it'll get in at a high enough percentage to be effective. So, yeah.
So you're delivering genes. So this is with your company, the company that you're at now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you're using these plasmids to deliver genes, I understand, that promote lean muscle mass accrual, and at some level, some kind of, epigenetic age reversal or something like along that lines. Will you tell us about that? Tell us kind of like maybe what, how that works, maybe what, for some of us who like to geek out, just to throw in a few names of the genes that you're using, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So our commercially available one is follistatin, typically discussed as a myostatin inhibitor, but it actually inhibits myostatin and activin in the blood. Our second gene is clotho. It's less developed than follistatin in our hands, but both of these are chosen because they have big effect sizes and really solid safety margins and like a ton of data. So
so with follistatin, just so people understand, because I know a little bit about follistatin, what does it do to rodents?
Yeah, it's one of the most remarkable papers in the history of biology. Like 2001, Lee et al. It quadrupled, I think, muscle mass in rodents.
They were like the Hulk. They were like Hulk rodents.
No,
bad idea. I feel like bad idea to release onto like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it's a bad.
But just and you couldn't deny it. Like super muscular rodents.
Right. Right. And so then there's follistatin. And I'm sure Nikki's gonna want to ask more about that too. But the other thing you mentioned is FOXO. FOXO's the one that you see often in like people who live over 100 years, right? Often, like supercentenarians. Is that
clotho
right?
is our second target.
Not FOXO. Sorry. Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah, FOXO is interesting, but follistatin and clotho are both secreted. So what we do is, we inject some local tissue and make a little export factory to get systemic benefits. Whereas with FOXO, we'd have to get it in a bunch of cells, which would, the challenge you talked about earlier of getting it in cells in nuclei, it's easier with a secreted protein because you can just make a little export factory.
Okay, with follistatin, that's follistatin, right? The muscle one. What have you seen? Like, where are you in that research? I'm very curious where you are in that research. Like, I mean, I just think about the potential implications for humans. Like one thing, it's great. Lean muscle mass is and VO2 max are the biggest predictors of longevity. But on the other hand, like, I mean, the potential for abuse, also the potential for like, building big heart muscles and going into heart failure.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us about follistatin and that work as it relates to humans, because I think that's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. There's great questions. I think frailty, as much as it's starting to be discussed with DEXs and everything, I think it's still an underestimated problem with aging. So we did a decentralized kind of proof of concept clinical trial with adult human volunteers. On an island off the coast of Honduras, 40.
Roatan?
Roatan? They had like, was there a bunch of Kool-Aid there?
I went there in December.
Yes. I mean, look.
Well, because they have their own government, right? Or they allowed like.
They allow shady
something
stuff.
Like that.
That's so. I'm not like the politics and legal guy on the team. I'm like
we're just kidding. Yeah. We're kidding.
No, I mean it's an interesting.
They make their own stuff or like their own. Rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a special economic zone called Prospera, and I mean, I like it because it provided us an opportunity to kind of move fast while still holding ourselves to a high scientific
Mhm.
standard. So yeah, the trial was like 40 adult humans aged 23 through 88, men and women. Very safe. We did not see any adverse effects, nothing weird, and we saw modest but consistent and significant improvements to body composition. So it was like pretty good, actually.
Was it so when you say modest
Yeah.
improvements, like what kind of improvements were we talking? And were you using like probably pretty low doses to be careful, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the dosage was 50 micrograms of plasmid for the study, and I think the limiting factor might be the cationic polymer that we used as a co-injection. Plasmids are quite safe. They've been used for a long time, used in clinical trials. Some of the transfection reagents, like this cationic polymer, you don't want to put too much in, but yeah, I mean, these were not athletes. These were just people who volunteered for this trial, and we
Wait,
saw an average.
I saw like Brian Johnson went to Rotem for his like yeah. Is this like what we're talking about?
That was yeah.
Is
So that
he
was
one of your
us.
people?
He was not in the trial. He was just like after the trial, another separate event, but totally
Oh,
the same
okay.
thing, same
Yeah.
setup. Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we saw 2 pounds of fat-free mass increase by 3 months on average. I think the maximum we saw was 12 to 15, and we saw about a 0.8% reduction in body fat. I can say, as I was like analyzing this data, I saw the PDFs from the DEXA places, from the doctor's offices. Like, my first impression seeing the data was like, oh my gosh, there's like a real effect. This is real. So, I think if somebody was an athlete and they coupled the therapy to increase protein intake and resistance training, maybe more than 2 pounds, but
2 pounds
yeah,
over how long?
3 months.
Oh, 2 pounds. Yeah, I
Of
mean,
of of strict muscle?
Yeah, I mean, so to be, I'm a scientist, not a salesperson. I mean, this is a DEXA, so fat-free mass is everything that's not bone or fat. So it could be water weight, could be placebo.
Okay.
But there were case studies, like we saw some improvement to osteoporosis. We had a lot of subjective well-being improvements. I mean, I would say my working conclusion is it's a real effect.
Uh-huh.
It's not quadruple musculature like in the mice, which is probably good. I don't think I think it's valuable as a frailty therapy, and I don't think there's like heart or other side effects. Certainly not compared to like androgens or something like that. I think it's a good option.
did you guys look at that though? Like, I mean, the dose is so low in
Yeah.
these people that moderate effect. I just wondered, obviously the concern would be, the again, heart failure, things like that, thick heart muscles and stuff like that. But
If you blast them with it, maybe that's why it's
yeah,
such low dose, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, internally I had, because I joined the company after Mac and Walter had developed this for like 5 years, and I think they had said they saw a plateau in serum levels at a certain dosage. So yeah, I don't think we looked at cardiac, you know, hypertrophy or anything like that. We looked at lipid panel, and other, blood things. So yeah, I would say it appeared quite safe, but there's always more we could look at. Yeah.
Can you like just really walk us through one of these experiments where you're measuring these changes in epigenetic clock after the
Yep.
plasma treatment, and then to what magnitude of rewinding did you observe?
Yeah, in some cases we saw pretty exceptional epigenetic rejuvenation. If you talk to Matt expresses
Matt
healthy
does not like
myocytes.
epigenetic
No,
clock.
he
Matt,
does
Matt
not.
does not
No,
believe in them.
no, he does not. No,
We're talking about Matt Caberlin, by the way,
yeah,
Ryan was a PhD student in his lab and who's also a very, very smart scientist. So
Okay.
Matt is the best. Yeah, I mean, I always hear his voice when I talk about this stuff, and it keeps me really honest. I mean, for us, it's like it's a good result. We saw epigenetic age reductions by 3 months, and there was a progressively greater rejuvenation effect in older age brackets. There's room for skepticism about epigenetic clocks, but the data were there. It's a nice piece of data. So that's what we saw. Yeah.
Okay, and that's just someone going there and getting it intravenously, right?
Nope.
And
Not
no.
even IV. It's just it
Oh.
was subcutaneous injection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So quite simple. And then and yeah, we followed up through 3 months and saw these. I think we saw between 5 and 10 years average epigenetic age reduction, and we saw maximum maybe as high as 20 something years in some of the older patients. Yeah.
Okay, just to kind of rewind a little bit. I'm a little obsessed with Brian Johnson, just a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
And so so his
You didn't call him Dr. Stud though. You called Brian Dr. Stud.
No, you're Dr.
Brian's
Stud.
impressive, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty incredible that you have been involved with him through Mini Circle, right? That's your biotech company.
Yeah, Mini Circle is the company that Mac and Walter founded, and I'm very lucky to work at. Yeah, working with Brian, I was with him. We were with him on the island, and I was super impressed with him. He's very fit. He's very smart. He was very nice.
He seems sweet. I've watched his documentary. That's how I know the Rotan thing. And
yeah.
This is his full-time job, right? I mean, Brian's full-time job is to be the healthiest man on earth, right?
He appeared to take it seriously. I mean, we were off camera, and he was ordering just beans in a restaurant. He was not eating hamburgers and dessert. He seemed to be sticking to it. So
sure.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, okay, so then going back, I want to know about the biomarkers in the people who got more muscle, and was there also improved metabolic function?
Oh, let me think. That's a great question. So we looked at glucose and lipid blood markers. I don't think we saw anything indicative of I wouldn't say we saw anything consistent with improved metabolic function. I would say improved body composition. And I think the data on follistatin and metabolism are mixed. We didn't see anything bad, but we didn't see anything outstanding. Some people reported anecdotally they felt like their cardio was better.
Okay.
But that was the extent of it, really.
Was there any evidence in that improving muscle tissue could extend healthy lifespan beyond just obviously physical strength?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about follistatin is the myostatin inhibition and the activin inhibition both contribute to the muscle gain. The activin inhibition can seriously lower inflammation, and we looked at and so we looked at HSCRP and homocysteine and didn't see real reductions. I think we probably looked at CBC and NLR and didn't see, but I think the anti-frailty effect is almost certainly pro longevity as long as there's not side effects like cardiac changes, and I think broadly anti-inflammatory effects would be pro longevity as well.
Well, and if you're increasing muscle mass, presuming that muscle is actually not just bulk, that it's actually real active muscle, is going to improve metabolic function. No question. Insulin sensitivity, inflammation, all those things are going to be impacted. So
definitely. And we should have tested strength. We didn't. We will in the future.
Yeah, that's an important one, right? Because just because you're getting big, for example, I think.
Yeah, that just surprised me of what you said. How you can get muscle, but is it going to actually be strength?
Growth hormone. Growth hormone. People, as I understand it, and Ryan probably knows this data better than I do, but the muscle growth that people get with growth hormone, it's mostly growth. It's not strength.
Really?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know those data well, but I mean, this trial was scrappy but good, I would say. And we should test strength in the future for sure.
Yeah. So tell me where your company is with this product. What's the vision, the timeline, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think, we kind of have a two-pronged strategy. We can keep going this medical tourism route where we do like B2B and sell to clinics and they sell to patients. And we can keep doing these decentralized international trials. At the same time, we're playing a longer game of looking to engage the FDA and just building out
Good luck.
foundational. Yeah, I mean it's hard, but it's good to work on it. So I think the goal is just to kind of max out the potential of this plasmid strategy that's complementary to CRISPR viral therapies. I mean, there's to be honest, a lot of relatively low-hanging fruit that's pretty safe. And we're passionate about making gene therapy simpler, safer, more accessible, because there's a lot that people might like.
When you say there's low-hanging fruit, describe some of those.
Yeah, I mean, follistatin and clotho are great examples. There's probably applications for IGF-1 and related things. LH is maybe instead of TRT, LH could be a good one. I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot here.
Well, what would LH help with?
It kickstart natural testosterone production.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the advantage is, anything that you would take as a peptide or something like that, and you take daily, this could be like one shot a year, which is
that's nice.
Could be nice.
Would it be expensive?
I mean, the follistatin shot is expensive. We had talked about pricing LH maybe like a lot lower, like hundreds or low thousands of dollars, and just go for more volume. So yes and no would be the answer. I think.
Oh, so with the idea, like if you're using these plasmids, and the plasmids they're just essentially by brute force, you're getting them inside of the nucleus. Is that the idea? I'm a little confused of how that's happening, and they're not integrating into the actual genome. They're just kind of sitting there, and some proteins are, coming off of them, right? So
absolutely, yep.
So if that's the case, would you have to repeat this over and over in order to get sort of a long-term effect? Because I'm just wondering, how long those plasmids, those little rings of DNA, are going to be good for.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably hovering in a sweet spot where it's not permanent, but it's long lasting enough to be worth it. So, a year, ballpark. And then as far as the cationic polymer can kind of help it get into the nucleus. You can also go the brute force route with naked plasmid. The literature's pretty, it's technical literature, but it's the evidence is pretty clear. Like if plasmids get into cells and they get into the nucleus at a sufficient percentage to have effects. Yeah.
And do you do it like IV? Do you put like IV or in IM injections, or?
Historically we've done sub-Q with cationic polymer and transfected belly fat cells.
Okay. So basically like you're giving yourself a testosterone shot or something like that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pretty simple, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys do it all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Nikki, I don't know if you have any more plasmid questions, but there's also some interesting hibernation stuff that I want to talk to.
We can definitely talk about hibernation.
Get in it. I'm learning at the same time. So I'm with the listeners, and we're just like, listening to Dr. Stead over here. So.
I know, Ryan, I gotta say something. The research that you've been involved with is all like super interesting, right? Like you're not. You're on you're doing like the stuff that like I feel like most people out there listening are like, wow, that's cool. Like it's not boring stuff.
No lack of excitement.
Yeah. Because so there's some work you're doing with DARPA, which is like the Department of Defense, right?
I formerly,
you formerly did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's related to drug-induced hibernation.
Yeah, that's right.
So people are wondering, like,
what the?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. See, that's exactly what they're wondering. She says,
what is that? Talk about this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is like super
But
fun.
dumb it down a little for me.
Okay, so when we sleep, our metabolic rate goes down to maybe like 85% of normal. Hibernating animals and other species go down to 50%, 10%, and um this can be therapeutic in and of itself. Like in worms, if they don't have food, they go into a dour state and they can survive for like 10 times longer in this like zombie state or whatever you want to call it. The other application,
Zombie
I mean,
worms?
yeah. I mean,
No.
they seal their mouth shut and they get super skinny and they just live like for 10 times longer in this like fat burning like state. It's bizarre.
Autophagy.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
doing they're doing the fasting. They're taking
Yeah.
it to a whole
Look,
other level.
well,
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, so
So
I was down at UCSB, and like the Joel Rothman at UCSB pulls out these worms that he said he were like 40 or 50 years old.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and so like we were trying to develop it because if somebody gets shot in the middle of nowhere, we want to inject them with something, put their body on pause so they don't die. It has applications for deep space travel. Let's say you're going on a 200-year space flight and
Oh,
you need to.
like Katy Perry and Gail and them just went on little
Yeah,
space
she's
travel.
probably.
What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
totally. Just
They
like
just went to
Katy Perry,
space, didn't they?
Yeah, did they go to
yeah.
space? Were they hibernating?
Dumbass. No, I
Maybe.
don't know. Maybe it was in a blink of
Um,
an eye for us.
But yeah, it's I think it's desirable to have like our metabolism probably without advanced interventions probably you sleep, it goes down to 85, maybe you work out real hard, it goes up a little bit. What if we could like go way low, go super high? I think it's just desirable to have metabolic control over our bodies.
Yeah, space
Sure,
travel.
sign me up.
Is there like is there any reason to think that there would be potentially some kind of benefit, like health benefit to, hibernating for
benefit I
a
can
few
see.
weeks,
I
kind of
think
thing?
probably I suspect the answer is yes. This is just a guess. I have I'm not gonna lie, I have played with hibernating a little bit.
Did you
Oh,
did you
yeah, you
hibernate?
drugging yourself. You drugging
Did you
yourself.
hibernate?
He's like, I want to go into
but yeah, I mean,
deep meditation, ready to go.
He gave him some muscle injections and went hibernating for a few weeks and see what happened.
Can I try this out? My body gets over anxious, so I'd really love to just chill the F out sometimes.
I am not advocating risky medical experimentation, but there's a couple papers from
But
maybe
I'm signing up.
2021. A Russian group, they published a cocktail, a reversible hibernation cocktail they applied to rodents, and it had like xenon gas and a bunch of like common pharmaceuticals. You want to know the most interesting hibernation trigger, in my opinion? Adenosine.
Yeah.
That's like the big one. Anyway, so I think
where do we get this?
That's beyond my ability to talk about, but
let the man talk.
Okay,
yeah, I think I suspect that there's probably some benefit to going into especially if you paired it with fasting or autophagy or maybe rapamycin, and like you could slow everything down, do some cleanup, just kind of de-stress, turn down whatever cortisol.
Well, what happens do some of those processes, going back to Matt Haberline, who loves mTOR, obviously, are we talking about, some of these things that in animals that hibernate, do some of these longevity gene pathways, did they get triggered? Like the sirtuin pathways, cyclic AMP kind of,
Yeah, I think, so I think of hibernation effectors in like two classes. So there's triggers, and a lot of those, I think in winter, let's say, like there's often a perfect storm of like it's dark, you're starving, you're alone, you're cold. And so a lot of these like, mTOR inhibition, I think, is like triggered by that starvation that animals are undergoing. So I think that's kind of the upstream triggers. And then downstream, a lot of cytoprotective pathways are turned on and a lot of cytoprotective molecules are created. Trehalose is the big one in nature, but there's others, you turn to fat metabolism. So yeah, I mean, all kinds of interesting stuff triggers it and results from it. It's super, super interesting.
Now you said you played around with it. What would you do? I mean, would you hibernate?
Uh,
Did you?
This is his party. This is his party trick.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I still do cool research, because this is what I do on the weekend instead of like normal stuff.
If you want a partner in crime in some of this experimentation, sign me up.
I mean, yeah, anytime. We're in Austin, come hang out. Yeah.
I love Austin.
Austin's a great place.
Be careful. Cool. Don't invite me somewhere I show up. This is the problem.
Okay. You can show up. I'm all I do all the time is science. You're welcome to come down anytime, do science. Yeah, totally.
You can hibernate together. Right? So.
Yeah. I mean,
let's hibernate. It's a hell of a pickup line.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I kept it pretty safe, but I got my heart rate down to 42. I used that as a readout of like metabolic depression, and
just using adenosine or what?
No, I mean, I'm not going to get into
what. He's got his cocktail. He's got his cocktail.
All right.
Worry about it.
I kept it pretty safe, and I mean, I turned out all the lights, blackout curtains. Only like I have a hypoxia chamber in my apartment. I have like a cold plunge, so I was like cold, oxygen deprived. I'd been fasting for days. Is in total darkness.
Yeah, look at
like
you.
A wearable tracking my heart rate and all this stuff, and it was actually. I mean, I don't do it often. It's pretty involved, but it was cool. I'm glad I've played with it a little bit.
Did you like? I don't know. Did you see shit or what? Did anything cool?
Not from that experiment, but I will say that the Monday after I did that, I'm not. This is my experience, but I felt like a teenager again. Like I was super hungry. I felt like a feeling of rejuvenation that I have not felt in a long time. I'm not advocating for people to do this, but that was my data.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken ayahuasca?
I've taken 5-MeO DMT changed my life. I have not taken ayahuasca though. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did ayahuasca. We actually did an episode on it while I like reported live from there. It was pretty.
Wow, that's pretty
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really
Very
cool. Yeah. So see, I'm interested in these types of fun, interesting experiments.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So when we talk about
Buck's like, bring it back. We're gonna bring it back.
And you know what the tricky thing is, and I think we hear about really cool stuff like this all the time. But right now, it's still pretty much 90%, 95% diet, exercise, and sleep. Right? I mean, to the extent that we can actually do anything meaningful. Yeah. I'm on rapamycin, take a few supplements, as part of that stack. In addition to that, maybe they're helping, maybe they're not. But if they're helping, we're talking about maybe, 3 or 4% at best. What do you think? What's your argument on that? Yeah, more or less.
I think it's like a pyramid. Like lifestyle is the base, then you have supplements, then RX stuff like Rapa, and then above that, like gene therapy, stem cells. But I think the human body is hardwired to fail on a timeline.
Yeah.
And I think, you can improve your health span radically and your performance, capabilities, and happiness. But I think to change the shape of that timeline, you're going to have to do like,
you're going to need some clotho. You're going to need some clotho.
Genetics, epigenetics, and like cellular replacement. I think to change the timeline, you have to do hardcore stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or just hibernate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just sleep it off.
You want to bring it back there? Come on, stop.
Sorry, it was too easy.
Well, go ahead.
So within the next 5 years of this longevity research, is there anything that really excites you that's going to be, you think, a huge breakthrough in extending health span?
Yeah, for sure. I think the big things, the really big movers, I think, are gene therapy, which a lot of people are working on from a lot of different angles. I think, epigenetic rejuvenation, and I think stem cells, I'm not a stem cell expert. What's that?
Buck and I did stem cells back in Colombia in January. I love it.
I kind of think that like And then, I mean, anything with AI and like brain augmentation is like the ultimate bootstrapping. Because if you get smarter and you have like a robot pal who helps you, could be big.
Yeah, sure.
But those are that's kind of the biological part, and then the intelligence part. And I think things are happening very fast, so hopefully we can just keep them rolling.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun.
Yeah, super fascinating conversation, man. Love what you are doing. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm coming out to Austin.
Yeah,
she is going to, Ryan. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. Careful.
Yeah, you be careful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I will.
Yeah.
I'll tread lightly, but I will be up. I'll be up for it. I'm excited already.
All right.
Anytime.
Well, thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, y'all. This was great. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our healthy takeout. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie. It's time for our healthy takeout.
I think there
Buck, shut up.
There might be a harassment case coming out of here.
You're so mean. He was so cool. I liked him a lot.
He is very cool. I was like,
he loved it. I saw him blushing. He loved it.
I know. Of course. if you're flirting with anybody, I'm just giving you.
Was it that? Was I really flirting that bad? I was really serious.
It was pretty obvious.
I thought he was so fun and just nice. And I thought what he was doing was great. And when he started talking about like having these hibernation moments, like experiments alone, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of somebody, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like kind of fun. So I don't know.
I think you know what you're doing. You got to get yourself over to Austin. You know?
I know, he's cool.
Anyway,
he's doing some great stuff.
I love this interview because he hit on like some of the coolest parts of what's going on in longevity, and then stuff we didn't know about, like hibernation.
Mm-hmm. And I love, exactly. And then I love his
I would
evolution.
much rather hibernate than get frozen, by the way, because we had a cryonics thing where space travel, you'd get frozen and then go off for a couple hundred years. Yeah, I'd much rather hibernate. I'd be much more comfortable with that.
See, I got to go test it out and just see how it works. I'll be the crash dummy of everything. I don't mind.
Yeah.
But I love his evolution of things. I love, from being like an athlete, like NFL, an elite athlete. And then that influenced him to learning more about the body. And then he was able to really geek out and, eventually work with Brian Johnson, who is definitely a pioneer in all these things. I mean, he's had quite the timeline. I'm like, really, I love what he's doing. I'm so excited for him because it seems like he's in a place that he really loves,
Yeah. And I can just imagine like the bodybuilders getting their hands on this stuff, right?
When they actually have the good for strength. That was a really interesting thing you brought up, by the way. When you said like we can build the muscle, but is it actually like pliable to strength? Like, can it actually do that? That I didn't really even think that would be a question.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I want to just look at that so I can comment on it. Growth. Okay.
We're gonna keep this in, by the way, so everyone knows that Buck, he researches some of his answers.
Well, I said it. I want to make sure I'm not lying. Growth, muscle size.
But it was a legit question. That's my point too.
No, it's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I thought so.
It
sounded like a real good question.
So it's So growth hormone, you might get some strength, but it's disproportionately size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again,
the bodybuilders, that's all they care about is the size. It's not like they're going up there and like lifting.
That's true.
Anything.
Yeah.
But then,
it's just, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I would want it to be.
So if you see a bodybuilder
real.
like in the gym and he's like benching 100 pounds.
20, yeah. He's got little 20-pound weights and I'm over here like, what? That's so funny. Well, there you go. I'm like, I've heard about you. I've heard about guys like you.
I know what you're on.
I know what you're on.
I've got a better drug, and I can deliver it via plasmids with my new friend in Austin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have a great time. My life just opens up all the time. It's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let us know how that trip to Austin goes.
I will.
And you want to read us out?
Yeah. All right. Longevity Junkie is created by Dr. Buck Joffrey, MD, and is executive produced by myself, Nikki Lee, Dr. Buck Joffrey, and Phil Ferragamo, and we're distributed by our friends at Acast. See you next time.